Okay, Dr. Chu.
Hi. So we should get started. Huh? Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. That's great. I am Dr. David Chu. Welcome to this program talk for the Statistics Department, Statistics and Data Science Department talk on the Statistics program at NUS. So welcome everyone for making time to join us this afternoon. I'm joined by three of my colleagues actually, Ms. Musliha, who's our admin officer, and Associate Professor Lim Tiong Wee, Deputy Head in the department, and also my head of department, Professor Adrian Rolin. So I suppose quite a number of you would have listened to the CHS talk sometime in the morning. So just to reiterate, the Statistics and Data Science department is actually a department under the Faculty of Science, which is part of the College of Humanities and the Arts. So College of Humanities and the Sciences, my apologies. So today we want to tell you a little bit more what our department has to offer in the statistics program at the department. So just give me a minute. Right. So a little bit about the department. We have about 30-40 full-time teaching staff. Quite a lot of our colleagues over here are rather dedicated teachers, and a lot of them are highly regarded internationally in their research, accomplishment and so on and so forth. So we have quite a lot of colleagues who work in rather modern statistics in the area of deep learning, machine learning, and so on and so forth. We do have quite a lot of expertise in the more traditional statistical research areas as well. Time series, causal inference, Bayesian inference, and so on and so forth. So this is to let everyone know what the department is, engaged in terms of the research and so on and so forth. My job today is to try to convince you that statistics is actually in demand in various areas in Singapore and beyond Singapore. So these are some areas that we see that there's quite a bit of a demand for people who are trained in statistics. So in the banking, financial, and in the accounting area. Well, that's really because the training that the department offers allows you to look into these areas and make sense of the risks and make sense of the data that is presented to people who are working in this area. Now, the second area is something that perhaps quite a lot of us are quite familiar with because of the situation that we are in the area of disease modeling, clinical research, and so on and so forth. In fact, just to mention that very often you notice that the newspaper, they would interview some of the so-called experts regarding the COVID situation. Quite a number of the colleagues that are being interviewed are they actually have a joint appointment with our department. So they work in the area of, for example, disease modeling and so on and so forth. So that is actually one area that a statistics trained person can be involved in at a higher level in terms of research and also in terms of contributing to the society. You also see that statistics is also used quite a bit in marketing research and in ratings and so on and so forth, and also in customer analytics and intelligence. So another area that is quite important is also, we see that in various government related departments, statisticians are also required to help make sense of data so that the government departments and the government sectors, they can make very informed decisions to manage and to govern the country. So let me carry on. Just to also assure you that this training that we provide for our graduates leads to meaningful jobs. This is a list of companies that employ our recent graduates. you see that the employers that are listed over here, they span across various different sectors. You see that you have the Amazon, you have the Shopee, which is related to internet, and so on and so forth. You have the banks. You also have manufacturing giants like Micron. You also see that some of the colleagues, they go on to work in areas like Southwest CDC. So suffice to say that the graduates from the department, they are contributing meaningfully in various sectors as far as we are able to see over here. So a few words about what the statistical training is all about. So very briefly, this is some parts of what we train our students to do. Statisticians, they provide expertise for the design and analysis of surveys, experiments, and research studies on various issues like on health, consumer, business issues. And I think the key thing that we want to emphasize is that we would train our students how to make informed decisions under uncertainty, because there is quite a bit of variability in the data that we are trying to analyze nowadays. So I think one colleague mentioned that the training that the statistics education provides one is to help us to make good decisions when we are faced with a lot of uncertainty in the world that we are living in. And it's a little bit, sometimes you might feel that things are a little bit messy, and that's really because when we're trying to model and make decisions under real life, things are not so cleanly and neatly placed. So there is a little bit of uncertainty, but the training that we provide will allow you to make good decisions considering all this uncertainty. So let me carry on. I will give you a few examples of the various sectors which a training in statistics would be valuable. So first one, in the banking and finance sector, I should also say that it is quite important also that statistics should be coupled with domain knowledge. So obviously, we wouldn't be able to go into depth, for example, in finance, in other areas of application, for example, in health and so on and so forth. So the training is valuable because you would need to also combine domain knowledge in this particular example in finance, so that you can make good statistical modeling to conduct financial analysis and decision making. So you can use statistical techniques to inform yourself of forecasting asset prices, construct high frequency trading rules, and also perform risk management. So that's one benefit of a training in statistics. Let me move on to the next one. You see that businesses nowadays, they need to make a lot of important decisions. So you could, just launch your business as it is without making much research, but that would be quite risky. So it is quite common nowadays that before businesses, they introduce new products or new services, they would want to do some sort of survey or conduct focus group surveys, sample surveys, and to perform few experiments to test their market. So in fact, I'm reminded of a company that I had chance to come in contact with some time back. So this particular company is a rather big consumer product company. So the interest that they had when I was in contact with them was they were planning to introduce certain beauty products. I would say that it is quite a well-known beauty product. So what the company did was they actually give out samples to focus groups to try out the various samples. And what they were trying to do is, because when you give out samples to those professional to prospective customers to try out the products, you would actually give them a series of different products. So for example, beauty product A, B, C, and so on and so forth. So the interest is that because when you try out different products and you try them together, there is some interaction between the different types of products that you are trying out. So the statistical problem that they were interested to look at is how would they design a good a good way of giving out the different beauty products, and how would they collect data so that they could find out which product is likely to be popular with their prospective customers. So that's one application in the area of consumer research. So let me also mention that you would notice that last year, the government released a whole series of different reports, which comes from the Census 2020 report. So that's also another area where statisticians are needed and required to make sense of data that is being collected from the, in this case, from the people of Singapore. So I wouldn't need to convince you too much that all this data, they are quite important, because it will allow the government to make informed decisions when they want to implement certain, whether it's economical or social policies. So you see that the use of statistics is actually quite crucial in government units and also in different ministries. And definitely also, just to remind everyone again, in the area of medicine and also in public health, statisticians are also being consulted to help come to good and informed policies, so that for instance, in the case of the COVID situation, colleagues are actually working on the modeling, and through such disease modeling, the government would be able to have a good sense of whether certain measures, the social distancing measures, would have an effect or not in trying to control the number of cases, and in evaluating if certain policies are going to help in controlling the number of cases in Singapore or not. So such statisticians, sometimes we call them biostatisticians, they are actually very crucial in helping to improve medical care and also in public health. So these are some areas where the use of statistics and where the role of a statistician is actually quite important. So I hope you have a good idea of how versatile statistics is in various different sectors of the society. So now, hopefully, you are a little bit more convinced of the usefulness of statistics. So now let's come to the next question. So why statistics in NUS? All right. So suffice to say that NUS is actually the only university in Singapore to offer a degree program in actually statistics. And that is done through our department, the Department of Statistics and Data Science. And once again, to remind everyone, to major in statistics, right, what you need to do is to apply to the College of Humanities and Sciences. All right, so you gain entry to the College of Humanities and Sciences, and after you gain entry to the college, and as long as you fulfill the subject requirement for the modules, all right, then you could actually opt to read modules in statistics and also declare your major in statistics. So that's how it's going to work as far as applying to the department is concerned. You would have seen some of these in the CHS curriculum briefing. So I'll be brief with this. So very quickly, you see that to obtain a degree in NUS, you need to fulfill a total of 160 MCs, of which the degree requirement is 40 modules, roughly 40 modules. So to qualify for a major, so let's say in the context of statistics, what you need to do would be to read about 15 modules that fulfills the major requirements. So in our case, we are talking about the statistics module requirements. And there are also two other components, which again, I will refer you to the talk in the CHS talk probably sometime in the morning. So there are various paths you could take. You could be someone who is versatile, so you could study the common curriculum, fulfill your major requirements, and use the rest of your module space for other unrestricted elective. Or you could be a specialist, that is on the other spectrum. You could spend 33% of your curriculum space on the common curriculum and the rest of it on your major, which in our case, if you're going to major in stats, then you could take all the stats modules you want. So let me just go on with that. So to qualify for a degree in stats, what you need to do is to have a good A-level pass in mathematics. Now, if you don't have that, then you need to read some what we call bridging modules. All right. So there is actually an option on top of fulfilling your major requirements to actually specialize in a data science or a finance and business statistics specialization within the statistics major program. So I will not go through the details, but this is pretty much what I was showing you in this particular chart over here, which illustrates the fact that you need to read about 15 modules to fulfill your major requirements, and then 13 modules would come from your CHS common curriculum, and the rest is unrestricted, which means that you could actually use it on your major, which is stats, or you could use it on a second major or some other other electives as well. So let me go on to the next few slides. I want to say a few words about the way we construct our curriculum. Now, nowadays, it's actually very easy to install a program from the internet, free program, and so on and so forth. And you put your data into the statistical package or some programming languages, and you run statistical procedures. Now, the issue is that sometimes doing that alone is not enough. So in the department, the way that the statistics curriculum is designed is that we focus quite a lot on problem formulation and also statistical thinking. So what this means is that we will not just teach you how to perform statistical procedures, methods, and so on and so forth, but we will also cover a little bit on the statistical principles, so that you know that when you're performing certain procedures, statistical procedures, you know that there is some underlying principle. All right, but of course we want to also emphasize that the big picture. All right, so we don't want to go too deep as well. All right, so but we want to provide you with a sufficient training so that you understand what is happening underneath the procedures that you are performing. So that's one emphasis that we have in our statistical curriculum. I want to also point out that statistics is inherently quite interdisciplinary. So you see that in our curriculum, the way we construct our curriculum, there will be quite a bit of mathematical training, so that you have a good foundation in mathematics, because quite a bit of statistical theory, it's developed on top of some mathematical concepts. So that's one thing, the mathematical aspect of things. So you will pick up linear algebra basis, linear algebra, calculus, foundational training. The other thing that I would like to point out is also that in this present age in time, it'll be quite difficult to do statistics with paper and pen or even a calculator. I understand that some of you might have used a graphical calculator before, but this is not sufficient also. So it is also important when doing statistics that you pick up some computer science skills, all right, I want to qualify and say that we are not going to expect you to train you in the aspect of computer science to the level of writing an application with nice interface and all those stuff. No, not that, not in that aspect. But the computer science training that we are talking about would be programming methodology, so that you are able to write simple codes or simple scripts to perform computation when you are using software. In fact, there are lots of software that can do quite a lot of stuff if you are trained to use them properly. You simply need to write a few lines of code, but sometimes you need to do a little bit more. So it is good to have some basic training in a programming language. So in the curriculum there are some space for that. Let me run through very quickly as well. Very briefly, the curriculum structure from the first level all the way to the higher levels. You might be aware that in a lot of majors within the CHS, there is always a entry-level module. So for the statistics curriculum, the entry-level module is actually this module that is known as Introduction to Stats and also Statistical Computing. So in this particular module, some basic concepts in statistics will be introduced to you so that you have a good understanding of some basic concepts so that you are able to proceed further when you go into your higher level training. And very importantly, as I mentioned just a while ago, a statistical software would also be introduced so that you are able to learn how to read in data and also perform some statistical procedures that is commonly done and necessary for analysis of data. So that's the entry-level module for the statistics curriculum. At the second level, we do a few different things. Quite a lot of it is to build up a good foundation so that you are able to do more in the higher levels. So you remember that we were talking about the importance of math and also the importance of programming. So in the second year curriculum, you see that there are two modules that is quite important mathematically. So the linear algebra module and also the calculus module. It provides a good mathematical foundation to allow you to acquire more training in statistics. The second pair of modules, the probability and the mathematical statistics modules, it will actually give you a very good foundation in the area of statistical theory, so that you are able to acquire more training at the higher level modules. In fact, quite a lot of students, they often find that this pair of modules, the probability and the mathematical statistics module, are perhaps one of the more difficult modules in the second year. But it is necessary so that it provides a good, solid foundation so that you are able to branch out more in the higher level modules. And finally, on the more computational aspect, we would also want to teach you a few other software options so that you would be versatile in able to use different programs for different purposes. There are three different programming packages and also software that will be covered in this statistical computing and programming module. R is something that is used quite extensively in the statistics program. On the other hand, we also recognize that Python has gained quite a lot of user base recently as well. So we also want to cover that as well. And for the third programming language, is traditionally quite popular with practitioners, the SAS program. So the principle is this: if you are able to handle three different programs to do stuff in statistics, then you should be quite versatile in the future. So the purpose of this module is it's not so much to teach you the program itself, but to teach you to be able to see the the structure of the different programming languages, so that in the future you have the skills to acquire knowledge in other types of programming languages. If you can handle three, then you would be able to handle more when new programming languages, when new softwares comes out. So in the third and fourth year level, we would expose you to different types of statistical analysis methods. The first pair, they are actually quite important statistical techniques in the area of simulation and also regression. And the next group of modules that you see over here, they would teach you how you can actually handle different types of data. So that is also quite crucial in the training of a statistical major. And finally, there are also different sets of modules. Depending on your interests, you might find yourself more drawn to the application of statistics in finance or business. So that is one possibility. There's a list of modules where you can actually read so that you are more trained in those areas. So that is pretty much perhaps dependent on your interest for your future career. Now, for those who are interested in the data science related applications, you could also read some modules that is more related to data science. And finally, there are also two other types of areas that you could consider in the medical area, public health area, or in the industrial statistics area. So this training in this four different diverse areas of application allows you to pursue specialized but diverse interests that you might be interested to pursue for your future career. Finally, some other words about the curriculum. Besides reading modules in the curriculum structure that we have mentioned so far, there's also opportunity for students to work with industry partners through what is known as the undergrad professional internship programs. We found that quite a number of students, they have gone out to do such attachments, and they find that it is actually quite useful because they are able to see firsthand how their training prepares them for a industry work that is related to statistics. So at the bottom of this slide, you see that the list of companies are actually companies where our students have done their internship at. So again, you see that there is a diverse range in terms of the different sectors that these companies are from. So that's one possibility. You could go out and do internship. In fact, I think the university greatly encourage students to go for internship because it enriches their training actually. For those who like to, there's also an opportunity to do a final year project under a faculty member's supervision. So that is also another option to enrich your training within the statistics program. I will not go through this again, but suffice to say that it is the statistics curriculum is designed to fit in the CHS program very well. So if you like to major in stats, you could actually consider a second major or even a minor. In fact, you can do two minors if you like to. And let me highlight again that within the major program, so if you were to fulfill the major program, which is 60 MC, you're going to graduate with a major in statistics. But however, if you like to, you can take an extra 20 modular credits of modules, and you can get a specialization in either data science or finance and business statistics. So these are possible options within the CHS curriculum space. This is a very brief study plan for the statistics curriculum. So in the first year, you see that all these boxes, in fact, throughout the first 3 years rather, in this blue color boxes over here, these are all the CHS core curriculum modules. So I think there should be a total of 52, I believe, something like that. All right. And those in green or light green are the statistics major module. So you see that in the first year, we would recommend students to follow this particular study plan. You take the entry-level module in stats, and then you take your math modules in Sem 1, one of it, and in the second semester, another one of it, and then you take the probability sequence and also the statistics sequence in the second sem or first year, and also the first sem or second year. And then fulfill your different requirements slowly. So these green boxes over here, it pertains to your major requirements. And there's still space for what we call unrestricted electives. So this gives you an idea of the different modules that you would be taking under the statistics program throughout the 4 years that you have with us. So I think I have come to the end of what I wanted to cover for this talk. So let me very quickly recap. So what I did just now was to try to convince you that statistics is actually in demand in different areas. So you remember that I mentioned that in the area of banking, healthcare, in the area of customer research, and so on and so forth, in the area of government, there is demand for people who are trained in statistics so that people can make sense of the data and analyze and formulate policies for the government. So that's point number one. Statistics is in great demand in our society now. Point number two is I was trying to convince you to study stats in NUS, and the take-home point that you should take back is that NUS Stats is the only degree program that we have in Singapore. This is the only program that is being offered by statistics program. And then the third point is there is quite a bit of flexibility in the statistics curriculum. You could concentrate in your statistics education. You fulfill the 60 modular credit, and then if you like to, you can read more modules within the statistics curriculum. So that is one option. You can be a specialist. Another option is you could combine your statistics training with another major if you like to. I think that the statistics and psychology and the statistics and econs combination would possibly be a good combination that some of you might want to consider. So I end my short talk over here. Be happy to take any questions. Let me check the chat over here and see if there are some questions that we need to answer. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so let me check that my colleague did not answer the question so far. Okay, right. So this is the question that we've been waiting for. What's the difference between this course and the data science and analytics course? All right. So the data science and analytics course is actually a very carefully curated course, because in that major, you are being trained to be a data scientist, and you would be trained in three different areas, which is the computer science area, in the math area, and also in the statistics area. So this is actually rather focused in the sense that we are training people to be data analysts in a more specialized and also in a more technical aspect. So I hope that answers the question that Joshua posed. Okay, I think it's the same question. All right. So I'll be glad to answer any other questions if there's any from the audience over here. Okay, what is the difference between doing statistics and specializing in data science and just studying data science? Okay, this is a very good question. All right. So it's a matter of proportion, right? Because a data science degree program is a full-on commitment to be trained in the various different important aspects of data science. Whereas in the specialization, what you are talking about is the majority of the training still consists of more statistical aspects of things, and you are doing a little bit more on top of your stats training in the area of business analytics. I hope that answers your question about data science and DSA. Yeah, specialization in data science under the stats program and business data science. It's a matter of your the level at which you are trained. All right. So definitely, if you're interested in a more data science related career, I would ask that you consider the data science program, because that will allow you to be trained a little bit deeply in the different areas which we feel is important for a data science graduate. All right. So for example, in the area of computer science, for data science students, we would ask students to take more higher level computer science modules, because that is quite necessary, because when people are doing more data science kind of job, they would need more skills in the area of computer science. All right, so that is one aspect. So let me also answer quickly another question. Are there a lot of pure math modules in statistics? No, I think if you're talking about pure math, then you're talking about really pure math like algebra and topology, geometry, and all those stuff. No, that is not within our curriculum space. All right. If you're interested, actually, you could consider reading some modules in pure math, but that is not required for in the statistics curriculum. There is also another question about business analytics versus statistics. I think perhaps the person is asking about the difference between business analytics and data science, which is a slightly different. All right. I think some of you might have attended the talk for the data science analytics a while ago. So as far as the business analytics program is concerned, that is hosted by the School of Computing. And if we understand it correctly, the intent, all right, is that the area of focus is actually quite specific in the sense that they are looking at very specific applications of data science in the area of business. Whereas in the data science curriculum that we were talking about just a while ago in the previous seminar, we are actually training our students so that they are well trained in all three different areas of math, statistics, and also in computer science, so that they are able to handle new stuff that comes up in the future. So that's the difference between the way we design our data science and analytics curriculum versus that of business analytics. Let me also take the question, what is the difference in career prospects for DSA graduates versus statistics graduates? Okay, so I think again, it is it depends on what you are aiming for. All right, so there are statistics graduates who does data science job. In fact, my colleague Prof Lim gave a talk about how one of our former students, he was trained in he actually obtained an honors in statistics, but on the other hand, he also got himself trained quite well in the area of computer science and all those stuff. And in fact, after he graduated, I had some interaction with him. He was upgrading himself in the area of programming and so on and so forth. So he picked up machine learning and all those stuff. So so it's possible for a stats student to do data science work, but that will require you to perhaps pick up some training on top of what the statistics program trains you for. Because at the end of the day, the statistics program, it's focused on training statistics in various different areas. Whereas the data science program, it's focused in training someone who is ready for a data science job. So that's the short answer. Let me look at another one. Is there a popular or common second major minor for students taking stats? Tiong-Wee, you can correct me, but I believe that the psychology and econs second major is quite popular with our stats major, right?
Econs is very popular. Computer science is up and coming.
Yeah.
Psychology could be interesting, but I haven't seen anyone yet, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's econs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that answers that.
Yeah. I think maybe I just want to interject a little bit and maybe address the question earlier, differences between STAT and DSA. Of course, I think the programs are designed a little bit differently but truth be told, at the end of the day, we do expect graduates from statistics and DSA to actually compete in similar job roles where there's overlap between what is needed in statistics and what is needed for data science. The NUS educational model is such that quite a big proportion of the curriculum is left as unrestricted elective modules. That's where no matter whether you're a stats major or a DSA major, that's where students should think about how best to fill that space to equip themselves for their dream jobs, so to speak. Okay? And coming back to the example that Dr. Chu alluded to earlier, for a very long time, we have been offering a statistics major program only, okay, before DSA came about. And many of our graduates from the statistics program in the past have found themselves to be, relatively successful in becoming data scientists. But what that means is you need to also constantly upgrade, and this sort of ties in directly to the nation's approach. You may have heard about Skills Future, and the idea is it's impossible in today's world to learn everything you need for the next 30 to 40 years of a career in a short span of 4 years. Okay, you will need to upgrade and upskill, and that sort of illustrates, our STAT graduates' determination in upskilling, upgrading themselves, so to keep up with the demands of their job roles, particularly as data scientists.
Right, thanks a lot, Tiong-Wee. There's also a question that I got. May I confirm that for minor in stats, coding will also be a necessary module to take. That is actually covered under the digital literacy pillar. So definitely that will fulfill the requirement. So that is under the CHS requirement. And definitely this will be useful for the stats, even for a minor actually. All right, I'll be happy to take any other questions. Maybe I'll just pause for a while. If not, we can end our session in a few minutes. Okay, I've been told that we need to wrap up because there is a poll that we need to help you get you do for us. So I'll let Ms. Lee Ha tell all of us what we need to do now.
Okay, the poll is launched already. We would like you to complete the poll. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, everyone. I also want to thank my colleagues for being here, Professor Rolin and Professor Lim, and also Ms. Lee Ha.